She's just the pretty secretary who handles paperwork and makes coffee for the real soldiers. That's what everyone at Fort Carson thought about Lieutenant Jessica Wade as she sat quietly at her desk, typing reports and filing documents with a polite smile. The men barely noticed her except to comment on her looks or ask her to fetch supplies from storage. But what they didn't know was that every night after the base went dark, Jessica was conducting training sessions that would have impressed Navy SEALs. And when General Barnes discovered her secret and demanded she open the mysterious ring she always wore in front of the entire assembled unit, what emerged would shock everyone who thought they knew what secretaries were capable of. If you've ever been underestimated because of your job title, hit that subscribe button. Sometimes the most dangerous people are hiding behind the most innocent facades. Lieutenant Jessica Wade had perfected the art of invisibility in a military environment where being noticed as a woman often meant being dismissed or objectified by male colleagues who couldn't see past her appearance to recognize the depth of training and experience that lay beneath her carefully constructed exterior. At 26, she possessed the kind of natural beauty that made conversations stop when she entered a room. With honey blonde hair that she kept in a professional bun and blue eyes that seemed to sparkle with intelligence that most people never bothered to notice or appreciate. Her official position at Fort Carson placed her in the administrative division, handling correspondence, filing reports, and managing the mundane paperwork that kept military operations running smoothly behind the scenes while more visible personnel received credit for mission successes. The role was perfect cover for someone who needed to blend into the background, while maintaining access to sensitive information and base facilities that would be restricted to most personnel without proper clearance or justification for their presence in secure areas. The soldiers at Fort Carson treated Jessica exactly as she had hoped they would when she accepted this assignment 6 months earlier through channels that didn't appear in any official documentation available to conventional oversight. They saw her as attractive but harmless, useful for basic administrative tasks, but incapable of understanding the complexities of military operations or contributing anything meaningful to their mission objectives that required real training and combat experience. Their dismissive attitude was both insulting and exactly what she needed to maintain her cover identity as a simple administrative specialist whose presence posed no threat to operational security or classified activities. The combination of sexism and military hierarchy created the perfect environment for someone who needed to remain unnoticed while conducting surveillance and gathering intelligence about potential security vulnerabilities. Jessica's daily routine was carefully choreographed to reinforce the impression that she was nothing more than a competent secretary who happened to wear a military uniform rather than civilian clothes. She arrived at the office each morning with a cheerful demeanor, organized files with meticulous attention to detail, and responded to requests from officers with professional courtesy that never challenged their assumptions about her capabilities or questioned their authority in ways that might draw unwanted attention to her true qualifications. The administrative building where Jessica worked was a hub of activity during normal business hours, with officers coming and going to file reports, request supplies, or handle personnel matters that required official documentation and approval from higher authority. Jessica's desk was positioned near the main entrance, making her the first person most visitors encountered when they entered the building, reinforcing her role as a receptionist and administrative assistant rather than someone with real military training and operational experience. During lunch breaks and after-hours periods, Jessica would often be seen in the commissary or other common areas, engaging in small talk with other support personnel, while the combat soldiers kept to themselves in their exclusive social circles that rarely welcomed outsiders who didn't share their combat backgrounds. Her conversations were always light and professional, touching on safe topics like weather, weekend plans, or base events that didn't require specialized military knowledge to understand or appreciate. What none of her colleagues suspected was that Jessica's background included training that would have impressed the most elite Special Forces operators serving in the military's most classified units and dangerous missions around the world. Before accepting her current assignment, she had completed programs that combined physical conditioning, weapons expertise, tactical operations, and psychological warfare techniques into a comprehensive skill set that few people possessed even among career special operations personnel with decades of experience. Jessica's true identity was known only to a handful of senior intelligence officials who had placed her at Fort Carson for reasons that remained classified, even from the base commander and other senior staff members who might otherwise have been briefed about special operations personnel in their command. Her mission involved monitoring potential security threats, gathering intelligence on personnel who might be susceptible to enemy recruitment, and maintaining readiness for operations that might require her specialized capabilities in crisis situations. The selection process that had led to Jessica's assignment at Fort Carson had been extensive and rigorous, involving psychological evaluations, background investigations, and performance assessments that tested her ability to maintain cover identities under pressure while executing complex mission objectives. Her success in previous assignments had established her reputation as one of the most effective deep cover operatives in her organization, with a track record of successful missions in hostile environments. Jessica's training had included not only conventional military skills, but also advanced techniques in human psychology, cultural adaptation, and social manipulation that allowed her to blend seamlessly into various environments while gathering intelligence and maintaining operational security. Her ability to appear harmless and non-threatening was the result of careful study and practice rather than natural personality traits that made her effective in covert operations. The curriculum that had prepared Jessica for her current role included extensive training in acting and character development, allowing her to maintain consistent behavior patterns over extended periods while under observation by suspicious colleagues. She had studied method acting techniques used by professional performers, adapting them for operational use and maintaining cover identities that could withstand scrutiny from trained intelligence professionals. Her psychological training included instruction in reading microexpressions and body language that allowed her to detect deception and assess threats while maintaining her own emotional control under pressure. These skills made her exceptionally effective at gathering intelligence through casual conversations and social interactions that appeared entirely innocent to the people providing information. The ring that Jessica wore on her right hand was both a communication device and a symbol of her affiliation with an organization that operated in the shadows between conventional military units and civilian intelligence agencies. The ornate piece of jewelry appeared to be nothing more than an expensive accessory that reflected her feminine taste and fashion, but its true purpose was far more sophisticated and dangerous than anyone at Fort Carson could have imagined. The ring contained advanced technology that allowed secure communication with her handlers, emergency signaling capabilities, and access to classified information networks that connected her to operations spanning multiple continents and involving personnel from various intelligence services. Its design was so sophisticated that even close examination by jewelry experts would reveal nothing about its true capabilities or the organization that had created it for specialized operations requiring the highest levels of security. The technology embedded in Jessica's ring represented years of development by engineers and technicians working in classified facilities, combining miniaturized electronics with traditional jewelry craftsmanship to create a device that was both functional and completely innocent in appearance. The ring could transmit encrypted signals, receive coded messages, and access secure databases while appearing to be nothing more than an attractive piece of costume jewelry. General Harrison Barnes had been observing Jessica's behavior patterns for several weeks, not because he suspected her true identity, but because something about her demeanor didn't match his expectations for administrative personnel based on his extensive experience with support staff in various commands. As a career military officer with over 25 years of experience in various commands, Barnes had developed an instinct for recognizing when people were not exactly what they appeared to be on the surface. Barnes had served in multiple theaters of operation and commanded units that included personnel with diverse backgrounds and skill sets, giving him extensive experience in evaluating the capabilities and potential of military personnel under his command. His ability to recognize hidden talents and potential security risks had contributed to his successful career and reputation as an effective commander who maximized the capabilities of his personnel. Barnes first noticed Jessica's unusual posture and movement patterns during a staff meeting where she was taking notes for the record while other administrative personnel handled routine documentation tasks. While other administrative personnel slouched in their chairs, or displayed casual body language appropriate for their civilian backgrounds. Jessica maintained perfect military bearing with an alertness that suggested combat training rather than office experience. Her eyes constantly scanned the room in patterns that indicated tactical awareness rather than simple attention to the proceedings, and her positioning relative to exits and potential threats showed training in personal security protocols. These subtle signs were nearly invisible to casual observation, but stood out clearly to someone with Barnes's experience in identifying personnel with specialized training backgrounds. The general's suspicions were reinforced when he observed Jessica's interactions with other personnel during routine base activities and social events, where people typically relaxed their professional guards and displayed more natural behavior patterns. She moved through crowds with an efficiency that suggested training in personal security techniques, positioning herself near exits and maintaining situational awareness that went far beyond what administrative duties would require for normal job performance. Her responses to unexpected sounds or movements were too quick and precise for someone whose job involved only paperwork and filing, indicating reflexes that had been developed through extensive training in high-stress environments where split-second reactions could mean the difference between life and death. The subtle defensive positioning she adopted during conversations and meetings suggested combat training that was completely inconsistent with her official job description and background. Barnes decided to conduct his own informal investigation into Jessica's background, reviewing her personnel file and assignment records for inconsistencies or unusual elements that might explain his observations about her behavior patterns and capabilities. What he found was a perfectly ordinary administrative specialist with standard qualifications and unremarkable performance evaluations that revealed nothing about specialized training or previous assignments that might justify his suspicions about her true background. The personnel file showed a conventional career path through administrative positions, with performance ratings that indicated competence without distinction in routine clerical duties and standard administrative functions. Her educational background included standard business administration coursework and military administrative training that was entirely consistent with her current assignment and job responsibilities as outlined in her official documentation. However, Barnes noticed that certain periods in Jessica's career history were documented with minimal detail, and her assignment to Fort Carson had been processed through channels that were unusual for routine administrative personnel transfers between bases. These irregularities were subtle enough to escape casual review, but suggested to Barnes that there might be more to Jessica's background than her official records indicated to supervisory personnel. The gaps in Jessica's documented service history coincided with periods when major special operations were being conducted in various theaters, though Barnes could find no official connection between her assignments and these classified activities. The timing of her transfers and reassignments followed patterns that suggested involvement in operations that would not appear in conventional personnel records available to base commanders. The breakthrough in Barnes's unofficial investigation came when he decided to extend his normal evening routine to include a walk around the base perimeter that would take him past the administrative building and other facilities that were typically empty after business hours according to standard security protocols. He had no specific plan beyond satisfying his curiosity about Jessica's activities when she thought no one was observing her behavior or monitoring her movements around the base. On the night that would change everything, Barnes was conducting his routine security walk when he noticed lights in the gymnasium that should have been secured and empty after 2,200 hours according to standard base security protocols and facility usage guidelines. His initial assumption was that someone had forgotten to turn off the lights or that maintenance personnel were conducting after-hours repairs that hadn't been properly scheduled or coordinated with base security operations. As Barnes approached the gymnasium to investigate the unexpected activity, he heard sounds that suggested physical training or exercise routines being conducted inside the facility rather than maintenance work or other authorized activities that might explain the presence of personnel in a secured building. The noise patterns indicated that someone was using the gym for intensive physical conditioning rather than casual exercise or routine maintenance activities that might explain the presence of personnel in a secured building. Barnes positioned himself near a window that provided a clear view of the gymnasium's main floor, expecting to find a soldier conducting unauthorized physical training or perhaps a group of personnel using base facilities without proper permission or awareness of security protocols. What he saw through the window challenged every assumption he had made about Lieutenant Jessica Wade and her role at Fort Carson. Jessica was moving through a combat training routine that demonstrated skills and conditioning that belonged in special forces training programs rather than administrative personnel development or routine fitness maintenance programs available to support staff. She was practicing tactical movements, weapons handling, and close-quarters combat techniques with a precision and intensity that indicated years of specialized training and regular practice to maintain peak performance levels. The routine that Barnes observed included advanced martial arts techniques, tactical firearms training with multiple weapon systems, and physical conditioning exercises that would have challenged experienced special forces operators with years of combat experience in hostile environments. Jessica's movements were fluid and precise, demonstrating muscle memory that could only be developed through extensive training and combat experience rather than casual fitness activities or routine physical conditioning. Her training regimen included elements from multiple martial arts disciplines, combined with military combat techniques and weapons training that created a comprehensive system for personal combat and tactical operations. The complexity and sophistication of her training routine indicated instruction by multiple experts in different aspects of special operations and combat techniques. Barnes watched in fascination as Jessica completed a series of exercises that included tactical reloading of various weapons, close-quarters combat simulations, and physical conditioning routines that maintained the kind of fitness levels required for special operations missions in hostile environments where physical capability could determine mission success. Her training session was structured and professional, following protocols that suggested formal military training rather than improvised civilian fitness activities. The most striking aspect of Jessica's training routine was her obvious familiarity with advanced weapons systems and tactical equipment that were not typically available to administrative personnel or routine support staff without specialized clearances. She was practicing with firearms and equipment that required specialized training and security clearances, indicating access to resources that went far beyond her official position and job responsibilities. The weapons Jessica was training with included specialized firearms that were restricted to special operations units, and her handling of the equipment demonstrated familiarity that could only come from extensive training and operational experience in their actual use. Her movements with the weapons were automatic and professional, showing the kind of muscle memory that develops only through thousands of hours of practice and real-world application under stress. Jessica's training session included practice with communication equipment and tactical gear that suggested familiarity with field operations and covert activities that would require specialized equipment and training. Her handling of the gear demonstrated competence that went far beyond basic military training, indicating operational experience with specialized equipment used in classified missions. After observing Jessica's training session for nearly an hour, Barnes retreated to his office to consider the implications of what he had witnessed and to plan his next course of action regarding this discovery. The woman he had assumed was a simple administrative assistant was clearly a highly trained operative with access to classified equipment and training facilities, suggesting a mission or assignment that went far beyond routine paperwork and filing duties. Barnes spent the remainder of the night reviewing everything he knew about Jessica's assignment to Fort Carson, looking for clues that might explain her true purpose and the organization responsible for placing her in what appeared to be a cover position within his command. His investigation revealed nothing in the official records that would justify her obvious capabilities or explain her access to specialized training and equipment that required high-level security clearances. The general's next step was to observe Jessica's daytime behavior with new awareness of her true capabilities, looking for signs that might reveal more about her mission or the organization that had trained her for whatever purpose she was serving at his base. He paid careful attention to her interactions with other personnel, her response to security procedures, and any unusual patterns in her work routine that might provide clues about her real purpose and mission objectives. Over the following days, Barnes noticed details about Jessica's behavior that he had previously overlooked or dismissed as normal variations in personality and work style that were common among administrative personnel from different backgrounds. Her knowledge of base security procedures was more comprehensive than necessary for administrative work, and her familiarity with classified protocols suggested training that went beyond standard administrative certification programs available to support personnel. Jessica's handling of sensitive documents and classified materials demonstrated security awareness that belonged in intelligence training rather than routine administrative education available to support personnel without specialized clearances. She followed procedures that indicated knowledge of counterintelligence techniques and operational security measures that were not typically taught to support personnel without specialized assignments or security clearances that required extensive background investigations. The general also observed that Jessica's work schedule included regular periods when she was absent from her desk for longer than typical break periods, and her explanations for these absences were always vague references to meetings or errands that couldn't be verified through normal administrative channels or confirmed by other personnel. These gaps in her documented activities suggested responsibilities that were not reflected in her official job description or assignment orders. Barnes's investigation reached a critical point when he decided to confront Jessica directly about his observations and suspicions rather than continuing his covert surveillance and investigation activities. Rather than conducting a private interview that might allow her to deflect his questions or provide plausible explanations for her unusual behavior, he chose to create a public situation that would force her to reveal her true identity before witnesses who could confirm what they observed. The general's plan involved calling an unexpected assembly of all base personnel, creating a situation where Jessica would be unable to avoid scrutiny or escape questions about her background and qualifications without appearing insubordinate or suspicious to her colleagues. He would use his authority as base commander to demand answers about her training and mission, forcing her to either maintain her cover story or reveal the truth about her real identity and purpose. The announcement for the General Assembly was made during the afternoon shift change, when most personnel were transitioning between duties and would be available to attend without disrupting critical operations or essential services that maintain base functionality. Barnes specified that attendance was mandatory for all personnel, including administrative and support staff who were not typically required to participate in general formation activities or base-wide briefings. Jessica received the assembly notification along with everyone else, but Barnes observed her reaction carefully for signs of concern or unusual behavior that might indicate awareness that she was the target of his investigation or that her cover might be compromised by his activities. Her response appeared calm and professional, consistent with her established pattern of compliance with official directives and respect for military authority and chain of command. The assembly was conducted in the main parade ground, with personnel arranged in standard formation according to unit assignments and rank structure that reflected the military hierarchy and chain of command established at the base. Jessica took her position among the administrative personnel, maintaining the same professional demeanor that had characterized her behavior throughout her assignment at Fort Carson and her interactions with military authority. General Barnes addressed the assembled personnel with remarks about base security, operational readiness, and the importance of maintaining vigilance against potential threats that might compromise their mission effectiveness or endanger personnel safety in an increasingly complex security environment. His opening comments were standard military rhetoric that provided no indication of his real purpose for calling the unexpected assembly or the confrontation he was planning. As Barnes transitioned into the main subject of his address, he focused attention on the importance of knowing the true capabilities and backgrounds of all personnel assigned to critical security positions within the base structure and operational framework. He emphasized that successful operations required complete trust and transparency among team members, making it essential that everyone understood their colleagues' qualifications and training backgrounds. The general's remarks about transparency and trust created an atmosphere of tension among the assembled personnel, who began to sense that this was not a routine briefing about security procedures or standard operational protocols that they had heard many times before. Barnes's tone and body language suggested that he was building toward a specific revelation or confrontation that would involve someone present in the formation. When Barnes called for Lieutenant Jessica Wade to step forward and join him at the front of the formation, the assembled personnel turned to watch with curiosity and growing concern about what might be revealed about someone they had assumed was a harmless administrative assistant without special training. Jessica complied with the order immediately, walking to the designated position with the same calm professionalism that had characterized all her interactions with military authority throughout her assignment. Standing before the entire base personnel, Jessica maintained perfect military bearing, while General Barnes explained that he had observed behavior patterns that raised questions about her background and training that were inconsistent with her official assignment and job description as filed in her personnel records. He described his investigation into her activities and the conclusions he had reached about her true capabilities and possible mission assignment. Barnes's revelation that he had observed Jessica conducting advanced combat training sessions created murmurs of surprise among the assembled personnel, who had never suspected that their quiet administrative assistant possessed such capabilities or had access to specialized training facilities and equipment. The general's description of her weapons training and tactical skills challenged every assumption they had made about her role and qualifications. The moment of ultimate revelation came when General Barnes directed Jessica to remove and open the ornate ring that she wore constantly, explaining that he believed it contained evidence of her true identity and organizational affiliation that would explain her unusual capabilities and access to classified resources. His demand was presented as a lawful order from a superior officer, creating a situation where Jessica could not refuse compliance without facing military discipline. Jessica's hesitation before complying with the order was brief but noticeable, suggesting internal conflict about revealing information that was meant to remain classified according to her mission parameters and security protocols established by her handlers. When she finally removed the ring and activated the mechanism that opened its concealed compartment, the entire formation watched in silence as she revealed what had been hidden inside. The symbol that emerged from Jessica's ring was immediately recognizable to senior military personnel as the insignia of an elite special forces unit that operated under the highest levels of classification and security clearance available within the military structure. The sight of this symbol explained everything about Jessica's capabilities and confirmed that she was far more than an administrative assistant playing soldier or pretending to have military training. General Barnes's satisfaction at having his suspicions confirmed was evident as he explained to the assembled personnel that Lieutenant Wade was a highly trained special operations specialist whose assignment to Fort Carson involved classified mission objectives that could not be discussed in detail for security reasons and operational protection. His revelation transformed Jessica from an underestimated support staff member into a respected professional whose true capabilities commanded admiration rather than dismissal. The reaction among the base personnel was immediate and profound, as they realized that the woman they had dismissed as a pretty secretary was actually one of the most highly trained and dangerous individuals on the entire base installation with capabilities that exceeded most of their own training. Their assumptions about her capabilities and value had been completely wrong, forcing them to reconsider their attitudes toward other personnel whose true abilities might be hidden behind conventional job titles. If you've watched this story until the end, you understand that some of the most capable people in any organization are often hiding in plain sight, dismissed because others can't see beyond job titles and surface appearances. Jessica's journey from underestimated secretary to revealed special forces operator reminds us that expertise and deadly skills can be disguised as anything, even behind a desk job and a pretty smile. Her story proves that the most dangerous weapons in any military unit might be the ones that no one bothers to notice, and that true strength often comes packaged in ways that challenge our assumptions about what warriors look like. If stories like Jessica's inspire you to look deeper than surface appearances and appreciate the hidden capabilities around you, please subscribe to our channel. Because every quiet professional has a story worth telling, every underestimated expert deserves recognition, and every reminder that heroism comes in unexpected forms is worth sharing. Thank you for understanding that sometimes the person filing your paperwork might also be the one capable of saving your life, and that the most lethal training is often hidden behind the most innocent smiles.